Hello, dear everyone. Just to remind you or to introduce myself to those who do not know me, my name is Roman Granishin. I am the founder and one of the team of the program World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine, which is meant to help the village citizens in rebuilding their homes, which had been destroyed due to Russian aggression. Right now, I would like to start our presentation, and we call these events bi-weekly. In the events like this, in these news reviews, we are talking about the latest updates from the agricultural fields as well as from the battlefields. So the program World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine, as I told you, it is the initiative of the group of business people who had been involved in agricultural trainings, tours, organization, and we have been working under the logo Travelite Agro. When the war started, there was nothing that we could do in the military sense of things. So we decided to use our contacts at most, and thus to help the people in the villages, the small family farms, to rebuild their homes and households and farms actually in the villages that have gone through Russian occupation and aggression. So the aid that we are trying to provide is targeting the families who have suffered severe damages and who are actually the agricultural producers in some way, the smallest farmers, who do not have access to the governmental programs. And I must add that there are hardly any programs for the village citizens, unfortunately, yet. And of course, the ones that we are trying to help, they do not have the alternative place to live in or alternative sources of funding in order to get the money for reconstruction. What do we do for them? First of all, we try to rebuild their homes because this is the most important, to have the roof over your head. Secondly, we try to help them rebuild the production capacities of agricultural purpose. Those are barns, stables, garages, greenhouses, etc. The third level of help is helping with equipment, which is vital for some families, for example, tillage equipment or sprayers or small tractor or whatsoever. And of course, farm animals, because when Russians came to Ukrainian cities, towns, and villages, it turned out they do not have anything to eat. So they have been hunting for farm animals in the villages. And that is at one side funny. However, it is very sad from the standpoint of the way how they did it. In order to be most transparent and to guarantee that every penny or every dollar or every hryvnia that is donated will be spent at maximum effect for those people, we have asked for help in making decisions from the respectful, reputable people throughout the world. Those are the people who have been had been working with us before that for a couple of years and who could help us make the right decisions. And those are the board of ambassadors who, in fact, approve any spendings that we want to have. In other words, if you want to donate or if you want to provide a substantial help to the program, you will be invited to become an ambassador, and being an ambassador, you will be able to control and see how the money is spent. We have two important principles. First of all, we do not give off cash in case we provide services in rebuilding, repurchasing, and returning to at least something that reminds of the normal life for those people before the war. And no upgrade. if the person had been using the tractor, which is at 90 horsepower, we will not be looking for much more expensive for 350 horsepower. The reason is that he simply will not be able to utilize all that potential of the new equipment or new facilities, he or she. So how to help? Following this QR code, you can go to our website, but here is the partner in the United States of America, a very respectful partner, LifeNets, the NGO that is scoring 100 scores out of the 100, according to Charity Navigator. They are helping us to generate the money before the ambassadors approve them for a certain aid recipient. Of course, each donation that is higher than $200, we try to repay with our services, and you can choose either to join our online school, which is Travelite Agro Development, and this is the online platform that has number of very useful agricultural videos, professional videos on production. And also you can join us to travel on our tours, and the donation amount will equal the discount for the price of traveling with us. Of course, we are looking for the way to speak out to people, to spread the word about our program as much as it is possible, and to deliver the truthful information about what is really going on in the villages of Ukraine with the people, smallest family farmers, who provide very substantial support to the total agricultural industry. However, they get very little support from the world in the difficult times. And we know the facts. We communicate with them every day. We live here in Ukraine. We travel in those villages. So we can be the source of truthful information which we want to share. And saying that, I would like to show you my request or the video that I have recorded to Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. One second. I will need to reshare the screen.
Hello, this message is recorded for Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you're receiving this message and you can help us facilitate the process of delivery it to him, we would be grateful if you do so. So, dear Mr. Arnold, my name is Roman and I'm Ukrainian. Me and my team of partners in agricultural business have set up the program World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine, and we are trying to help the people in the villages who have suffered Russian aggression. However, they remained in the villages and they try to rebuild their houses, small farms, try to produce the agricultural produce, and there is literally no program helping them to facilitate the process of returning to the normal life. I've seen all your movies and I've seen the latest biographical 3 series about how you were reaching the goals in your life. These people remind me of you because they are strong enough not to give up and not to leave what they've been doing, what they've been trying to develop all their life, just because someone came and tried to take it away from them. I would be grateful if you could join our initiative, and you can learn more about it on our website, wrru.org. And we would like to invite you to become an ambassador of our program and help us spread the word about our initiative and make it more effective. Because unfortunately, every day there are more and more people who need our help. But there are quite a few of possibilities for us to do that. Any ideas Any of your contacts would be grateful, would be useful to this program. Looking forward to hearing from you. My email is roman, ROMAN, at wrru.org. All the best to you.
So this is, what we are trying to achieve within the efforts to spread the word about the true life of those people. Now let's continue to the most important part, which is the news update. By the way, this is our team in Ukraine who help me and our ambassadors be most effective in terms of rebuilding the rural Ukraine. So, first of all, battlefield updates. As you know, yesterday, Ukraine and all Ukrainians throughout the world have been celebrating the Day of Independence. In 1991, Ukraine finally became independent, and as it turned out, Russia and Putin's, the major terrorist of the 21st century, didn't like that. He wanted to fix it according to his understanding, and a terrorist country, started to occupy Ukraine, first by settling their spies into all our industries, into all our branches of power. Then in 2014, they annexed Crimea and the eastern part of Ukraine, claiming that people wanted so, which is total lies. And I have a lot of farmers, a lot of people from those areas I have talked to and who I had communicated even before that. Very few of them would be willing to join Russia. I'd say maybe a maximum 30% with all the propaganda that they have been using. And in 2020, on the 22nd of February 2022, the full-scale invasion started. Now is the time to get back the justice and to get back what belongs to us. Here are some of the examples of the recent success of Ukrainian forces, and you have probably heard a lot how much weapons we have received, how much training Ukrainian soldiers have received, and we are very grateful for that. Now it's time to start using it. Our general commander, he has his own understanding of what is happening in the front line and how Russians are fighting. Therefore, his way of battle differs a little bit from the NATO standards. Please be patient if you want to criticize why we do not listen to the NATO standards, NATO recommendations. We've been living next to this terrorist for all our life. We know what they are capable of, and our commander knows their weak sides, and strong as well, because underestimating of the enemy is one of the biggest mistakes that can cost you life. So there is 3 lines of the defense that Russians have succeeded to build in the south and in the east, and we have been trying to penetrate through them in a number of locations. One of those locations is Robotyne. Today we've read the news, and I've been hearing from the people, which is unofficial information, that Ukrainian forces are already on the second defense line. Official information of breaking the first line came just today from CNN, but I must say that our witnesses, people, they have noticed Ukrainian forces on the second line already. Bakhmut, that's the legendary town, unfortunately, due to total destruction of the battlefields. And there is even this concept of Bakhmut city. When Russians were trying to take it, Ukrainian forces had the buildings in the city to hide behind, Then Russians destroyed those buildings and entered the city. Now Ukrainian forces push them back, and Russians have nowhere to hide because they have destroyed the buildings, and there is no shelter for them. So it is much more difficult for them to survive there. So Bakhmut is slowly being surrounded by Ukrainian forces, mainly on the south side. And soon we will get the higher elevations that will allow us to control the whole city. Unfortunately, Russia almost every week proves its status for terrorist country. They attack the civil objects. It is 100% proven fact that starting from 2014, those were Russian soldiers, Russian military who shelled Donbass and who have been shelling all the cities throughout Ukraine, disregarding whether it is West, Central Ukraine, Northern, Southern, or Eastern, since the 22nd of February 2022. This time, August 19, they have launched a missile that exploded over this central drama theater, and thus it destroyed the theater lesser than it destroyed the buildings around. You can see 66 residential buildings and 7 people killed. That was the middle of the day. A lot of people were in the center of the town. They got killed, and again, children died. There is no excuse for these actions. There is literally nothing that can make the guilt of those people, of those terrorists, softer, so to say. No justification for that. August 23rd, there was another hit to the school, which is educational institution in Sumy Oblast, the oblast in the northeast of Ukraine, which borders to the terrorist country. And 4 colleagues of mine, the teachers who were preparing the school to the new school year, died in the school. There were no soldiers there. However, good news came yesterday on the 24th and 23rd of August. First of all, and that's according to some estimations, is considered to be a very unique, successful operation of our surveillance and our intelligence. We have successfully convinced the pilot of one of the military helicopters, Russian military helicopters, to surrender to Ukrainian forces. Thus, he, before even it happened, took care of his family. It moved out from Russia. It is in Ukraine, according to our news, our defense ministry there in Ukraine. He was taking some parts to the jets which were supposed to be bombing Ukraine in the future after they are fixed. He was flying with 2 of his comrades on board with those parts for the jets, and he changed the course and he landed in Ukraine. When his comrades understood what was happening, they preferred to get killed rather than surrender to Ukraine. This is what Russian propaganda does to the people. There is no proven case of any bad attitude to the prisoners of war in Ukraine, unlike the situation in Russia with Ukrainian soldiers, but that's a different topic. So here, the helicopter with a lot of information, coordinates, and so on, as well as the parts for those jets, all successfully are in Ukraine. There was a case on the 23rd of August when the plane entered Ukrainian territory, Russian plane, next to Zmyiny Island. And although Russians have claimed they successfully drowned one of the ships of Ukrainian vessels, but it is not true. All the crew of those vessels is alive. The vessels are okay, but the plane got shot and needed to go to the nearest airport on the controlled territory by Russia in Crimea. Also, before the major major operation to Crimea, which happened yesterday, August 24th. On August 23rd, there was Russian anti-missile defense system destroyed by our forces, which cost about $1.3 billion. It was located here, and it was responsible for scanning all the western part of Black Sea. Thus, after destruction of this system, Ukrainian forces were able to land on this side of the Crimea, destroy with 10 or 15 people, destroy 4 speedboats, killed 30 Russian soldiers, and provide some other damage to their forces, which is not mentioned, and successfully returned back to the controlled area of Ukraine. So that's another one of the most successful operations of our special forces. Good news. Another piece of good news is that Wagner leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who has proven to be one of the most cruel and the most self-confident terrorists in the world, after, of course, Putin, he crashed in the plane accident, and there are a lot of versions of what has happened. However, what is most reasonable explanation is this is the revenge by Putin for his attempt to take over the power 2 months before that. However, there are rumors that he is still alive, and he had been expecting it to happen. So he was on the different plane, because he always has 2 planes just for to make sure that he's safe. Anyway, we will see later. But today's news is that all the burial memorials of the Wagner soldiers are being demolished right now at this moment, and Russia acts as if this whole private army is unofficial and has no rights. There might be some interesting news coming soon. Anyway, it is for the good, because as you know, there was a video how Prigozhin's soldiers were torturing Ukrainian soldier, prisoner of the war, by cutting his parts of the body and videotaping it, and then, of course, killing him, which is totally unacceptable on any humane Western law or whatsoever reasons. It's totally terroristic. As of the official losses of Russian army, you can see them on the screen. I must say that at the beginning of the war, those calculations of the personnel who died, have been proven by some of the groups of military support in Russia, which means that they are quite adequate. And but we must understand that at least 3 times of that are the soldiers that have been wounded and will not return to the battlefield. So in other words, it makes up to 1 million of losses of the soldiers that will not return to the battlefield. Harvest 2023. As you know, Ukraine produces a lot of winter wheat, and it is about 90% of the total volume of wheat is winter wheat. And of course, canola as well, winter canola, because we have very little precipitation, and these crops, they do better if they get winter moisture and winter precipitation. So in total, we have harvested about a little less than 6 million hectares And just to remind you, Ukraine, all the territory of Ukraine has about 28 million hectares of arable land, and that acreage brought 27 million tons of produce. Winter crops, winter wheat, usually makes up to 9 million hectares out of all our land. According to Mykola Solsky, our Ministry of Agricultural Affairs, we are not able to plant at least 20% of our land. And unlike the previous year's results, this year the nature is helping us, because winter crops, they have average higher yields. And although the quality of the produce is lower, because the higher is the yield, the lower is the quality. That's the truth for Ukraine. And nothing extraordinary. This is how it happens. In volume, we have so far we have pretty much the same prognosis and the same numbers of the potential harvest, which is about to be over. And now we are harvesting the spring grains, which make up at least maybe 10%, not much more. August 23rd, as well as a number of dates after Russians have quit the grain corridor deal, Odessa Oblast and the infrastructure of the transportation of grains and export has been hit a number of times by Russians and by Russian forces. Those are not anti-missile systems of Ukraine. Those are the direct targeted missiles coming from Russian warships towards the infrastructure, because they do not want us to be able to sell the grain. This is the key. Before the war, it was the second industry in terms of building the budget of Ukraine. The first was iron and iron processing. The second was grain. The grain made 40% of the total income from the exportation before the war. Now it is the major. And knowing that, Russia is destroying this capability. By the way, for you to understand, there is a number of cases in the history when Russians have been doing the same with Ukraine. And our history did not start since Soviet Union collapse. Ukraine is older country, much older than Russia, or Moscovia, as it was called before. And in the 19th century, Russia has caused artificial starvation to Ukraine at least 5 times. All those times, they were selling the grain and the commodities abroad, claiming that all is fine, but in fact, Ukraine was suffering. And there was a number of attempts of United States and Western world to support Ukraine, but majority of them ended by Russia closing this gate of help. However, judging from the communication with our clients, farmers, they still have a possibility to sell the grain, although not at the price that is interesting for them, that is profitable. So export. Ukraine has exported almost 4 million metric tons of grains and pulses, which is about 18% more than last season. And you should understand that last season, the grain corridor was opened around on the 1st of August. The export starts from the 1st of July, the export year. And now this grain corridor was closed or terminated by Russia only about 3 weeks ago or so. So within the equal amount of grain corridor working this year and last year, within this period of 2 and a little bit more months, Ukraine succeeded exporting 18% more than last season. That's because we have developed the number of alternative ways to transport. So here is the breakdown on the amount of each of the crops that have been exported. And from the beginning of 2023, we exported 8.1 million tons of the produce. That's not enough. That's just from the Romanian port. This is far not enough. And Romania said that they are able to provide a possibility for export of a little bit over 2 million metric tons of grains per month. For you to understand, before the war, we were able to export about up to 6 million metric tons per month, majority, 90% of what was coming through the Black Sea ports. And the Danube River ports were able to do 0.6 million per month. Now, it is much, much more. And Russia knows that, and that's why the missiles that are coming to Odessa Oblast, they are hitting not only the ports of the Black Sea, but also the ports of the Danube River. I would like to mention, and Andrei is going to join us today. So I will probably skip this slide right now. He will join us in 5 minutes. Natalia Melnichenko. So, by the way, now about what we are currently doing, the World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine. And we are glad to announce that we are able to help another 2 farmers or 2 families with the donation that we received from Ludovic Chambe and the company named CBRE in France. We have been communicating with them for a couple of months and successfully received the donation from the company in the amount of 25,000 euros. Thank you very much to Mr. Ludovic, to Mr. Paul, and all the people who work for the company, for the CBRE, who decided to help us. We will report on what we have done for this money as soon as the ambassadors approve our intentions. So currently the plan is to go to 2 locations. One of them is in the south and another is in Izium, the east of Ukraine, so Kherson Oblast and the east of Ukraine, and get the estimation of the cost of rebuilding the houses for the people. So thank you very much. We appreciate your help and you will get the update. Meanwhile, I would like to also show you the result of our work recently. That was the first project that we initiated between the collection of donation for which we initiated between Ukrainian companies and Ukrainians, because we needed to do it very fast. And now I would like to show you what we have succeeded to build.
So this is the final shelter, anti-bomb shelter for the orphanage near Kiev. It is located nearby the very strategic object. So here is the ventilation system done. It's already been integrated inside. There are 60 kids who live in this orphanage, and every day, literally at least once a day, we have air raid attacks. So what we did, we were asked to provide the outside defense with this thick cement blocks. Inside, as you could see, there are 2 cargo ship containers, And also we found a little bit extra money in order to do this roof so that the water does not go and the iron doesn't rust. The idea is that that's enough to secure from all the wrecks after explosions. Of course, not from the direct missile hitting, but from the sides. And on top there is metal, there are sacks with sand, and there are other horizontal blocks, and then comes the wooden part that holds this roof. So the total budget was around $7,000 all together. It took us about a month and a week or 2 weeks to do it from scratch.
You can see all those videos that I'm showing you on our YouTube channel, as well as this broadcast can also be found on our YouTube channel. And now I would like to invite our guest, Andriy Melnichenko, to share his story and a little bit of the history. We were doing the interview for Washington Post a couple of days ago, and we invited the farmers to share. Oops, I'm sorry. This is the. Yeah. So a couple of days ago, I've heard of his situation from another farmer in Izium Oblast, in Izium, Kharkiv Oblast, and he mentioned Andriy as the one of his neighbors who suffered the most from Russian aggression. Доброго дня, Андрію. Так, зараз починається відео, поки не видно. О, видно. Відео трошечки слабеньке. Так. Чуєте нас? The connection is poor. Ви мене чуєте, Андрію?
Да, вже чую.
Пропадає зв'язок. Можливо, напевно, відключимо відео. Давайте ви відключите відео, щоб було чути вас краще. I'm saying that the connection is very bad. Probably turn off the video in order to be able to communicate. Зараз чутно?
Да.
Добрий день. Зараз я покажу на сторіночку фотографії, які ви нам надали, і будемо спілкуватися. So, Andriy Matviyenko. He is a small farmer in Kharkiv Oblast, in Izium, and these are the pictures of what happened to his house. Андрію, кажу, що ви невеликий фермер з міста Ізюм, з-під Ізюму, і ось це, що залишилося у вас з будинку. Розкажіть тоді про себе в декількох слів, а я буду перекладати. I asked Andriy to tell his story himself, and I will be translating for you. Будь ласка.
Ну, що мені, сім'я, дві дитини, жінка, держав хазяйство, коров трохи, там, може, штук 4 табаки, свиней небагато, кури, кози.
So, we are
ходив на роботу, був.
Зараз дайте я перекладу, дозвольте. We are a family of two children, me and my wife. We're farming a small farm with a couple of cows, 10 beef cattle, and some chicken. In addition to that, I had job to go to work for the main profit. Так.
Ходив на роботу, була у нас ферма кролів, я там був бойщиком, проробив 12 років, все устраювало, хазяйство трохи, робота, зарплата, крутилися як могли, огороди все держали, поки не зайшли.
Дозвольте, Андрію, я буду з такими коротенькими реченнями. So the job of Andrei was at another farm, which is bigger, and it was producing rabbits. He had worked there for 12 years. In addition to his own farm and some other sources of profit, they were able to provide themselves with enough of profit for living. And that was before the Russians came. Андрію?
Було все добре, поки 3 травня, март це що у нас? Травень, да?
Березень.
Березень. Получається, 3 березня зайшли російські війська, окупанти. Зайшли окупанти, сиділи ми вдома, мабуть, місяців 2, поки вони не розрішили нам їздити, хоча б продукти. Порозбивали зразу всі магазини, повитягували всі продукти. Ближайше було це до Куп'янська, можна було доїхати.
Скільки кілометрів?
До 100 кілометрів приблизно.
Дозвольте, я перекладу. Дайте, no. When Russians came in the beginning of March, they destroyed all the stores and groceries because they needed some food. And for 2 months, the citizens, local citizens, were not able to travel anywhere. The nearest supermarket or grocery was in Kupiansk, which is now being a very hot point in terms of war actions, which is 100 kilometers away from him, from the family.
До цього, ще ми війни ж не знали, що буде війна. Поплатили всі комунальні, все поплатили, що можна було кредити, там, проценти, все було. Заплатили грошей, взагалі там оставалось, може, трошки. Так як жінка хвора, в неї болячка по женському, я завжди заказував в аптеки ліки. Ті ж, вони стояли 400 гривень, 450. В окупації вони стояли 1800-2000 гривень. Я їх не мог знайти, ото крутився як мог, щоб їх достати, тому що ліки були важніші, ніж все остальне.
Дозвольте перекладу. So, when Russians came, of course, no one had been expecting them, and Andrei says that he's paid all his bills for the house, for the loans, and all the taxes just before the occupation started. And they had very little money left because they were expecting the new season to start, which would bring them some more profit. And his wife had a surgery, and after which she is supposed to take medications for all her life, which are critical for her survival. So when Russians came, the price for these medications rose from 400 Ukrainian hryvnias, which is about $20, to 1,800. So almost 5 times more, so up to $100 according to the previous rate. But for you to understand, the exchange rate changed twice when the war started. So we could buy $1 before the war for 27 hryvnias. After the war, for about 40 hryvnias, almost doubled.
Вони ізначально, як зайшли, відбирали машини, транспорт. Це були ці луганчани і ДНР. Отжимали машини. У мене було 2 машини, одна старенька, така поганенька, а одна була така більш-менш. Одна для хазяйства була, а друга їздить на базар. Вони хотіли в мене одібрати машину, але я її зламав. Я її зламав спеціально, щоб вони її не відняли. А потім, коли трохи далі, коли запретили віджимати машини, що всіх підряд, якось воно чи комендатура, чи воєнна поліція, це можна було пожалуватися. Я зробив і почав їздити, продавати молоко, вони почали випускати. А взагалі, до Куп'янська, коли їздив, 11 блокпостів, і на кожному блокпості вони оце заставляли роздіватися, показувати наколки, показувати, предлагали добровольцям, щоб я пішов до них служити, за них. Ну, я їм кажу, ні в
Дозвольте я
коєму
перекладу. Дозвольте я перекладу. So, when Russians came, those were actually the military from DNR, the quasi-republic, so to say, and LNR, so Luhansk and Donetsk Republic. So the military, they were stealing and robbing, and first of all, they were taking their vehicles. Andrei had at that moment two cars, one of which was very old, and he used it purely for their farm operation. But the newer one, understanding that it might be taken by them, he broke it, deliberately broke it so that it wasn't able to move. And later, in a couple of months, when the situation got a little bit stabilized, they allowed to travel, and there was some military police that you could go to and complain if somebody would take anything from you. And it was more or less safe to start moving and selling the produce from the animals, like milk, for example, to Kupiansk. Let me remind you, it is 100 kilometers away, which is about 60 miles away. And within this 60 miles, he had to pass through 11 block posts, each of which were stopping the car, forcing him to get undressed, show his tattoos, and were trying to convince him to go into their army. Andreю?
Ну, я на це ніколи не вівся і постійно з ними скандали. Ну, може, я і неправильно робив, бо в мене сім'я була. А колись я відказався від гуманітарки. Коли постійно вони давали гуманітарку, постійно був обстріл. Оце вони по людям постійно. А я ставався вдома і бачив, откуда це було діло. Як тільки гуманітарка обстріл. І оце одне время я відказався від гуманітарки їхньої, кажу, я їздю до Куп'янська, продаю молоко, у мене гроші є, я собі куплю поїсти, і сім'ї теж. Вони спеціально мене кажуть, якщо ти не будеш брати, не дасиш свої паспортні дані і не будеш брати гуманітарку, ми тебе відвеземо на підвал, а там подумай, чи тобі що важніше, чи сім'я, чи там друге, все остальне. Ну, про вибора не було.
Я перекладу. So, humanitarian aid that was coming from those military, and they always refused to go to serve for the occupants' army. And he noticed that every time they were bringing the humanitarian aid, after that, the shellings of the civilians became harder. So, in other words, they brought the humanitarian aid to shell those locations and kill civilians. And once he refused, from the standpoint of just safety, to go and pick up this humanitarian aid, so they came to him and said, "Why aren't you taking it?" He says that I sell milk, I have some money to feed myself and my family. So they said, give me your passport data, and if you do not support us and do not want our humanitarian aid, we will kidnap you, and you will spend some time in the basement thinking about what is more important, your principles or your family. Andreю?
Вони вели себе дуже нагло, оце приїдуть, ми хочемо м'яса. Так їжте, кажу, свою тушонку, вона не добра. Ми хочемо курку, ми хочемо барана, ми хочемо козу, свиню. Колись забрали, у мене вибору не було, або вони заберуть з автоматом, зайдуть, або забрали свиню. Я їм кажу, ви хоч ліки мені пообіцяйте, жінки ліки треба було, тяжко було їх достати. Вони наобіцяли кучу дров, свиню забрали, посміялися, ні свині, ні ліків, нема ніде нічого. А що ти їм прийдуть, автоматом тикають, лапті забрали, там дитячі ігрушки щось лазило, покрали, що вони там шукали, я не знаю. Все, що блистить, все, що шевелиться, все віднімали. Особливо ці буряти, п'яні, це їм нічого не зробиш. Воно може і танком, і в двір заїхати, і по вгороді розвертатися. А що йому скажеш? Вони наглі. Оце ЛНР і оце буряти. Це страшні люди. Ніхто з ними не сперечався, тому що вони то стріляють, то тикає автоматом у пузо, то ще щось. І постійно
Дозвольте, я
віднімали.
перекладу. So, he, at some points, he was even arguing with them at these blog posts, but he now understands that this is not the very wise, this wasn't very wise, because, for example, this LNR, Luhansk National Republic, so to say, and Buryati, which is Buryatia, their nationality in Russia. So the soldiers from Buryatia, especially when they get drunk, they were very cruel and they could do anything. They didn't care about any moral or anything like that. They came, they could drive on the tank into your yard, or drive over the garden, turn around on the tank, and come with the rifle, with the machine gun into the house, and threaten, force you to give off everything. They were stealing and robbing regularly. If they want to eat, they would come and say, "We want meat." And these would argue with them, saying, "You have your own military food in cans, meat cans, so eat those." They said, "We don't like them. We want some sheep meat. We want some fresh chicken." Or once they came and demanded a pig to be slaughtered and to give to them. He says, "Okay, I will give you, but I need medicine for my wife. Could you guarantee that I will get it somehow for this pig, because this is important for me?" They promised to organize this medicine, but never brought it. So they just fooled around, and everything that was interesting, even children's toys, they would search them and take some of those with them. So no dignity, no soldier's dignity, especially with those Buryat warriors or LNR, Luhansk People's Republic. Андрію?
Заставляли робити паспорта, щоб ми брали їхні паспорта, щоб виїжджали в Росію. А я їм скільки раз скандалив і казав, чого до вас їхати, як ви прийшли нас убивати? Чого до вас їхати? Ми вас, каже, захищаємо, освобождаємо. От чого, от кого? Я живу з дружиною вже 20 років, держу хазяйство, потихеньку там всякими розборками, на роботу ходю, там про молоко, там свиня, бики. Я 20 років збирав стройматеріали. У мене 2 хати, в одній ми жили, в другій на зиму переходили. Я збирав 20 років стройматеріали. Биків продав, купив вікна, биків продав, купив кришу, там, желізо, там те. Все, ми крутилися, все було нормально. Ну, коли вони прийшли, ми стали, я не знаю, бомжами. Вони, мабуть, вони самі живуть, вони нас побачили, каже, ви що, олігархи? Такі ми олігархи. Заведи хазяйство, роби, і буде в тебе таке. Що ви, це, ну, вони ж...
Дуже гарні слова. So Andriy says that a number of times they were forcing them to get Russian passports and immigrate to Russia. To what Andriy answered that, why do we need to go to Russia if you came to kill us? They answered, not kill, but save you from what? What are you saving me from? From my own belongings. I have lived here for 20 years, Andriy says, with my wife, with some small businesses and with farm, with these bulls. I have been trying to raise some money and to buy construction materials in order to fix one of my houses. For your information, one of the houses has 4 rooms, the other one has 2 rooms, and the smaller one was used in winter because it was warmer, but still both of those houses needed badly to be repaired. And he was raising the construction materials. For example, he says, I sold the bulls for meat. I bought the windows. I sold the bull. The next generation of bulls, I bought the metal parts for the repairing of the houses. And when they came, they destroyed everything. Those 2 houses and the construction materials that he was able to raise. And also they have, when they came, they said, "Are you oligarchs? Are you rich people? Rich people here?" He says, "Anybody can be that rich if he is not lazy and does something. We've been doing farming, and this is how we made our living. Try doing the same." This is how Andrei answered to the occupants.
Виїжджати, ну, з сім'єю ми не планували, то що було жалко цього, жалко свій худобу. Да. Я 20 років живу з жінкою, 20 років ми все це з нуля копили, собирали з маленьких теляток, своїм трудом заробляли. А якби я поїхав, ну, во-первых, нікуди було їхати, це раз. А по-друге, що у мене 10 голов худоби було, там свині, барани, кози, кури, стройматеріалів багато було, мотоцикли, машини. Вони його просто, ну, розграбили. А це мене дуже, я свій труд ціню і не сидів до останнього, поки 9 вересня.
Дайте я перекладу. So Andrei didn't want to leave and to seek shelter somewhere else because he and his family have spent 20 years to raise these small belongings, these construction materials. He had a couple of old motorcycles, 2 cars, and all of the stuff that they have earned with hard work. He didn't want to leave behind because he understood that it will be destroyed. And until the end of occupation, he was hoping to preserve some of it and then continue living. But on the 9th of September 2022, 9 вересня 22 року.
Да, 9 вересня, ну, я їздив на Куп'янськ з дитиною. Ми постійно їздили з дитиною, бо утром із 7 до 8, да? Із 7 до 8 в нас завжди, вони самі стріляли з мінометів. Ми чули, откуда воно вилітає, куди воно летить. Ну, по-любому, наших там не було, тому що воно було рядом. Вони постійно нас обстрілювали, а звертали, кажуть, ось дивіться, це ваша Україна по вас же стріляє. Ну, коли я їздив на Куп'янськ, я бачив їхні всі, де вони стоять, де вони ховаються. Ну, мені нікому було сказати і нікому передати. То що у нас, у нас же зв'язку не було, світу не було, ми сиділи без газу, без світу, без нічого. То, що насобираємо, купили генератор там і це. Коли вони за телефон, це кожен телефон, півчаса вони починають мурижити, щоб ми нікому не дзвонили, нікому не здавали. І телефон не можна було брати, хоча можна було, я їздив, я бачив їхні всі позиції, можна було здавати і казати, щоб їх паразитів гатили. Ну, так як не було зв'язку і нікому.
Дозвольте, я перекладу. So every day between 7 and 8 a.m. Russians were shelling with their artillery over these civilians, and then they would say that those are Ukrainian forces. You see, Ukrainian forces are shelling your homes and you. However, Andrei, when traveling to Kupiansk with his son, he always took his son with him for the security reasons, of course. He saw the locations of those artillery, and he understood perfectly those were not Ukrainians but Russians who shelled their houses. And he says that if we had electricity or connection or coverage of cell phones, I would definitely provide this information to Ukrainian forces. But we lived in when under occupation, we had no electricity, no gas, no cell phone or internet. So there was literally no possibility to pass this information. Mhm. And they every time they were checking the cell phones for half an hour, spending to check each of the cell phone, searching for these photographs and communication with pro-Ukrainian forces. Андрію, розкажіть, що сталося в кінці, будь ласка.
9 вересня, ну, я Україну ще бачив за 2-3 дня, коли вони тікали, ці ЛНР, ДНР, коли вони тікали на Куп'янськ, вони їх виловили і почали там бити колону. Ну, я це бачу, але нікому не сказав, тому що в нас багато предателів. І 9 вересня, десь та пів 9 вечора, десь, коли Україна вже тут була в нас, все було нормально. А за 2-3 дні колона танків, 6 штук, поїхали. Десь поїхали, ну, не в відомому напрямку і сховалися. Вони десь блукали. Ну, думали, що вони виїхали. Ніхто не знав, що вони десь були рядом. Да, десь були рядом. А 9 вересня наші хлопці зайшли, все було нормально. Ми накормили, як могли, ну, як положено, тільки без алкоголю. Молока, там, сиру. Зробили засаду, все. Ну, і ці 6 штук танків з сусіднього села хотіли до нас прорватися. Але вони не знали, що в нас засада. А в нас там місток. Від мене до містка десь приблизно... Ну, да, кілометр, рівно кілометр. І вони, 4 танки поїхали на сусіднє село, а 2 танки чогось, ну, повернули в наше село. Тільки вони місток проскочили, я не знаю, як вони вмудрилися, ну вже потемніло, а я якраз з дочкою коров доїв. І вони, коротше, місток зірвали і почали їх на містку там, ну, бомбити. Від мене до містка кілометр, ну, я не знаю, як він умудрився. Один пролетів двір, а другий вони його на містку підбили разів 3. І він сунув до мене, і в мій двір засунув. І ми ще взяли, він же почав горнути усе на світі. Ми перелякалися, жінка в хаті, ну, а ми з дочкою в сараї, воно все потухло, генератор робив. Бачимо, що на нас сунеться, він до мене заскочив в гараж, кухню. І ми взяли ще, я ж кажу, вони почали вилазити, непонятно. Ви хто такі? Та ми росіяни. Ну, ми їх взяли в полон, трьох росіянів ми взяли в полон. Потім підбігли наші, і отож через 1,5 часа воно почало це все зриватися. Він, оцей росіянин, каже, танк повністю заряджений, лоток стоїть, патрони ці заряди в лотку вже автоматично виставлено. І воно як почало то стріляти, їх забрали. Отож, у мене були наручники, я дав наручники, один був ранений, а 2 ми наручниками скрутили, а 4-й згорів там, він, видно, від удара помер і згорів заживо. Да, він насмерть розбився і згорів заживо.
Дозвольте, я перекладу. So, on the 9th of September, when he was traveling to Kupiansk, he already saw that Ukrainian forces are approaching, but he didn't say it to anyone because he didn't want to reach. There were a lot of spies, and he didn't want to ruin the counter-offensive. So in the evening of September the 9th, they have already Ukrainian forces. They have already destroyed the column, the majority of Russian tanks, but the 6 of them. And those 6, they were wandering around and some were hid. So in the end of the day of the 9th of September last year, they thought that those 6 tanks left for the other villages, and they have greeted Ukrainian soldiers with some supper, and also built an ambush on in their yard, just in case. And when it was already late, those 6 tanks showed up somewhere, and 4 of them went one direction, but 2 came towards his side of the village. And that was the edge of the village next to a small bridge, which was about maybe 0.6 miles away from his yard. So in the evening, Andriy and his daughter were milking cows as this battle started. So Ukrainian forces started bombing these 2 tanks. One of them got burned next to this bridge, but the other one got hit, but was still moving, and it was moving uncontrollably, and it just entered the yard and then destroyed the barn with equipment, and then stopped while burning. 3 of the soldiers went out from the tank, and Andriy with his neighbors, they have taken them, the prisoners of the war. He had handcuffs, so one of the soldiers was wounded. He couldn't move much, and the handcuffs were used for the other 2 soldiers. The 4th one got killed at the beginning, and in an hour and a half of burning, so these people were taken away by the military. And this Russian said that the tank is full of ammunition and mines. It is already loaded, and in an hour and a half, about 90 minutes, the tank started to explode. And this is that was the very massive burning and explosion. So it is 1 hour and a half after it got hit, and it came into the garage, hit the garage of Andriy. So they did not stay near it, and they just because any moment it could have started exploding, and only in an hour and a half the detonation started.
І через 1,5 він каже, він заряджений, все там. Ми що то взяли їх в полон, почали ждати, підождали наші, прибігли, ми вони вже готові були, скручені. А через 1,5 години воно почало взривати. А я якраз поїхав, то що вони закрили город, щоб не виїжджали, не в'їжджали, ну, коротше, не пускали, а самі мародірували і тікали. Ну, і через 1,5 години воно почало все взриватися. Оце ж танк повністю заряджений був. Почало взриватися. Ми сиділи, а в мене ще дитину трошки ранило, нога там була. Він на костелях, ми його до сусіда в погріб. І воно через 1,5 години почало взриватися. Ну, коли полетіла башня, вже взлетіла башня, і полетіла до сусідського двору, ми вже почали лізти в вогонь, доставати, виганяти худобу. Ну, кури згоріли заживо, 3 худобини пропало, ну, телята. Коров ми почали, вони опеклися, ми їх почали виганяти. Коров, що залишилося, те ми все виганяли. Виганяли геть його, щоб воно йшли по огородам куди-небудь, аби тільки воно, ну, вижило. А тоді вже утром ходили собирати. І ото воно все...
Я перекладу. So before that happened, Russians closed the town, and they were just looting everything they could. Nobody could leave or come into the town. So when it all happened in the evening, of course they by the way, interesting fact, they have taken those three tank drivers and the crew of the tank without military, just with their own forces, with the agricultural appliances. There is this fork that looks like a spade to move the hay. So with these forks, just like with what they could, they have taken them into the prison. And of course, they moved away from the tank, understanding that this is going to explode soon. So in an hour and a half, the top cannon of the tank, the ammunition exploded inside, and this cannon flew over to the neighbor's yard. And in that yard, they have been staying in the basement. His son, before that, had broken the leg trying to escape the shelling. So he was using crutches. He was hiding in the basement. And after this cannon took off from the tank, just exploded, they understood this is the worst explosion and they need to save something what they can save. They started to allow the cattle leave, because all these premises were all together, and 2 bulls they succeeded to rescue. Cows and all the chicken got burned to death. So all part of the animals which survived were wounded. They just moved them out from this barn and let them into the fields anywhere just to be safe. He went back into the house to take the documents, and that is when everything was burning.
Ну, погоріло, ми на зимку гроші потихеньку ж собирали, то з молока там це заготовили багато сіна худобі, зерна, заготовили дров. Ну, ми до зими готові були, в нас було все, нам не треба було нічого, у нас дрова, корма, це все було, все на місці. Ну, так як вони гарні освобождателі, вони мене освободили від усього, дітей від школи, від інтернету, від світу, від усього мародьори. При мені у бабушки відняли машину, нова новісінька у бабушки машина була сина, при мені її відняли, відвезли на Росію. Постійно, а ще було таке, от, наприклад, сусіда не трогали, там других по вулиці мало трогали, а ось від мого двору і до школи, наприклад, там метрів 300. От мого двору, мій двір постійно шманали. Ну, у нас були зетки і ці ЛНР. А приїжджали букви В, оце, вони там заряжені, дебело були. І вони оце приїжджали, постійно шманали. Хто був вдома, шманали все. А кого вдома не було, крали золото, навіть документи на хати, там, медичні картки, воно в ньому не розуміло, воно брало, крало. І оце мій двір постійно разів 3 перевертали вверх ногами. Я їм вже раз не видержав і кажу, що ви шукаєте, що ви це? А вони мені кажуть, ти постійно їздиш, постійно твоя машина там замічена, є інформація, що ти нам сказали, що ти, виходить, докладаєш на територію України їхні позиції. Я їм доказую, в мене сім'я, я не можу докладати. То що, во-первых, що я не мог, то що зв'язку не було, це раз. А вдруге, вони телефон шманали і постійно угрожали, постійно. І хтось доклав, каже, от він їздить, от він провозить телефон, він по-любому докладає на територію України і обстріли. Оце постійно обстріли. І мій двір оце шманали постійно. Переворачували його.
Дозвольте, я перекладу. There were some of the citizens which were safe from all those searches by Russians during the occupation for some reason, but his farm and his home was always under a very serious interest from the Russians, especially from those military who came with the letter V, because Z letter and the LNR, they stayed in the region, they knew him, but the ones who came with the V letter, they had a lot of ammunition and a lot of military weapons. They came a couple of times, and then finally he says, "What are you looking here? You've been here a number of times." They answer, "You travel a lot to Kupiansk with your car, we've seen you. We have information that you are draining the information about our locations to Ukrainian side." They have checked everything and they turned over all his yard, searching for some proof that he is pro-Ukrainian. He says, "I have no possibility, I have no intention to do that. I have a family. I want just to survive." And he adds to me right now that even if he would be willing to do so, he wouldn't be able because he had no internet. So as a result, they came to save him from his own belongings, from internet, kids, from school, nothing else. All they have been doing were just looting, stealing, and those yards, those homes that were left, that where people did not stay, they left, were robbed and looted, and even the medical cards of the owners of the house, the documents for the house were stolen by Russians because they didn't understand what those documents were about. They took everything. So this was life under occupation. Андрію, я буду вам вже дякувати за вашу історію. Я сподіваюся, що ваша сім'я зараз відносно в безпеці, і сподіваюся, що ми будемо невдовзі з вами зустрічатися і говорити про те, яким чином ми можемо вам допомогти. Тим часом скажіть, будь ласка, що для вас зараз найважливіше для того, щоб якось полегшити ваше життя в плані, чим ви би хотіли, яку би допомогу ви би шукали?
Та зараз, як вам сказати, яку допомогу? Зараз важко це на базарі їздимо, тяжко з грошима. А так, у нас люди поїхали в Польщу на місто проживання, годів 6 назад. Зараз ми живемо у них проживаємо. Вроді вони не виганяють нас ніде нічого. Потихеньку крутюсь, що можу, грошей трохи назбираю, куплю корма. А так, їсти є, пити є, оце тільки грошей не вистачає, бо особо так зараз заробітків не дуже, як раніше було. Оце воно зараз виходить, так.
А скільки у вас зараз худоби? Зараз, на даний момент?
4 корови, свині є, кури, кролики бігають по двору, бо захворали, повипускав. Одне теля. І оце тяжко, просто тяжко на базарі зараз такі діла не йдуть.
Перекладу. So, I said, what animals do you have right now and what help do you need right now? So Andriy says that we have 4 cows, 1 beef, rabbits, some chicken, some swine. All the money that he gets for the milk, he spends for the urgent needs and for some food for the animals. He does not have money to rebuild himself. Meanwhile, he lives in the neighbor house of the neighbors who 6 years ago moved out to Poland. They still own that house. It survived. So they allowed Andriy and his family to live in this house. So this is where he stays right now. So the reconstruction of the house would be, as I can understand from what he said, most important for them, especially in the face of winter. And hopefully we will be able to do something for Andriy. Добре, Андрію, дякую велике вам за вашу історію. Ми підготуємо інформацію і сподіваємося на те, що якомога швидше з вами зв'яжемося. Бережи вас, Боже, і нехай таке більше ніколи не повториться. Дякую вам.
Та лучше, хай воно у них трапляється таке, ну не в нас уже. Я не знаю. Ми вже вдруге таке не переживемо. Ну, нас уже
Безперечно.
ніхто жаліть не буде. Ну, я думаю, що наші війська їх
Ну да, я розумію, про що ви
розіб'ють.
хочете сказати. Да. I said,
Да.
thank you and God save you. May it never repeat in your life. He says, may it repeat in their life. But if it repeats in his life for the second time, Russians will not will not leave them alive. Hopefully, Ukrainian forces will keep the front line so that Russians will never return to them. Окей, дякую, Андрію. Ми будемо продовжувати. Можете відключатися. Тим часом на зв'язку. Вам всього найкращого. So
Все,
we
до
will...
побачення.
До
До побачення.
We will proceed now, and my intention is to collect all the information needed and to provide to the ambassadors so that the money which we finally got, which we got thanks to the French company, we will be considering to use part of it to Andrew's reconstruction. And we are also considering helping Natalia Melnichenko in Kherson Oblast. They need the house to be rebuilt, and they are small farmers. You can see information about them. This is what happened to Natalia's house, and this weekend we will visit her. Metro will visit her, and that's the third farmer who is in the area of Natalia's. His shelter, the bomb entered the shelter, the barn, and the roof was displaced. So he will be the third to be considered for getting the aid. And kindergarten in Kherson Oblast is also in that area. We've already spoken about that. We are waiting for the decision of one of the German companies' programs to help us fix this kindergarten as soon as possible. That's the situation with it right now. And as I have shown, we have succeeded to get this money in order to build a shelter for the orphanage in Kyiv Oblast. This is our past projects last year. You can read more about them. This is the house we built for Allah. That's Irina Shevchenko, the third aid recipient, and Yulia Kovalenko, the fourth, who is succeeded to help with the roof for the shelter. This is how we rebuilt the roof for her. Ukrainian agricultural industry. Ukrainian agricultural industry looks like that. We have about 20% of land being farmed by agricultural corporations, up to 50% by private farmers, and 30% of land is farmed by the small farmers. So these small farmers, they produce about 70% of the horticulture produce, 60% of dairy, and 40% of small grains, spring small grains, as well as 90% of potatoes. So you can see how important are these people who we are trying to help. With your help, with your support, we will be able to do that. Please spread the word about our initiative, join the ambassadors, and donate if it is something that you can do. Thank you very much. God bless you. All the best to you. Bye-bye.